Hey everyone, welcome to another Living Life Naturally podcast where we talk about all things midlife, menopausal, trying to help women as they go through this stage in life so that they can have definitely a much better life and a much healthier life. So today I have with me Beth Sandlin, and she has come all the way from Colorado. And she is going to talk to us today about something very, very relevant for us as we hit that midlife stage or menopause, and as we're taught to move more. So Beth brings over 2 decades of expertise as a Pilates instructor, and she's the founder of Trifecta Pilates. She is also a survivor of cancer at 20, and her journey into Pilates was transformed by her personal challenges, which led her to develop a trauma-informed approach to Pilates. And her mission is to make Pilates accessible, focus on integrity, support, education, and empowerment. And her approach is about harmonizing the body, mind, soul, and spirit, and particularly beneficial during those transformative midlife years as we change into a new phase of life. So thank you so much for joining with us today, Beth. I'm so thrilled to have you here with us.
Oh, and thank you so much, Lynn. I'm so excited to be here.
So, share a little more about your own personal journey. What influenced you to approach your Pilates and holistic wellness approach?
Well, I really went from not liking any type of movement. Well, I love dance as a child,
Ah.
but beyond that, I would dodge every PE class I possibly could because I just felt unskilled and uncoordinated. And this led to a lot of inactivity. And it was through my experience with cancer that I realized I never want to feel that bad
Mm.
again. And so I made a commitment to myself that I'm going to do everything in my power so that I can feel healthy, feel good in my body, and have energy simply for everyday activities. It's never been about running a marathon or, all these extreme ways in which we can work out nowadays. It's more about sustainable living. And
Mm.
so for many years, that was motivating. And it got to a point where just focusing on the physical element was no longer sustainable. It wasn't always my priority. And it was once I started learning more about trauma and the nervous system that I realized, oh, there's something else that's going on with our bodies beyond just getting in a good workout for our physical health can really help our nervous system be more resilient. And when I started working in alignment with that on higher energy days, sure, let's do something that's maybe a little bit more challenging. But on lower energy days, maybe doing something a little bit more soothing and restorative, not only beneficial for the nervous system, but really helpful for our overall health of body, including mobility, which is key as we are in this age range or age stage of perimenopause to menopause.
Absolutely, that's so true. So, how does Pilates serve as a cornerstone then for a well-rounded workout program, particularly for women in midlife and perimenopause? Because we hear so much from those phases of life, things like, well, I'm doing what I've always done. I've always been able to maintain my weight, but that's not what's happening now. And then, of course, they get those joint aches and pains. So, talk about Pilates and how that rounds us off.
One of the benefits of Pilates is it's not only an effective strengthening workout, it's also really helpful for moving our joints through a fuller range of motion, which in the fitness realm we know as mobility. And we now understand it's not only strength that's really important at this time for our workouts, but mobility as well. So sometimes people can have a really well rounded strength training program, and yet they're still feeling achy because they're not getting to the full range of motion of joints. And that's what Pilates has always naturally embedded through the beautiful movement of spinal articulation, the big circles that we do with arms and legs. And what I appreciate about Pilates, and so many people do, is it doesn't feel like you have to do a whole nother workout. This really can be packaged into one class, both strength and mobility. And we'll work on that in different ways throughout the session.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I think it's such a big piece of the puzzle because all we think about is let's go to the gym and let's work out as hard as we can because that's going to help us lose that midlife belly bloat or belly fat, whatever you want to call it. And it really does take all different types of things to bring them all together and to balance us. So I really appreciate you mentioning especially flexibility and balance, because as we age, I know that flexibility and that balance, people don't think about it so much, but it's so important for us to keep that front and center for ourselves. I know it kind of brought it home to me a couple of times when I was walking and wasn't watching where I was going and ended up stumbling down pieces of concrete that I hadn't realized were there. And it really made me think I'm not as flexible, I'm not as strong, and I'm not as balanced as I used to be. And maybe I need to work on that more.
Definitely. We know that not only strength and mobility can naturally decline if we don't do anything. And I want to highlight that. Not that just naturally declines and there's nothing we can do, is if we aren't taking the movement actions that are going to be beneficial for us. Because the great news is no matter when you start working out, you can see gains in strength, mobility, flexibility, balance, cardiovascular endurance. I think that's what's so motivating is it doesn't really matter when you start. It's just a matter of getting started. Specifically to flexibility and balance, those are the two other elements of overall fitness and health that we want, as you were saying, just for functional daily movement. Now, it's great if you can do very complex balance moves in a class or, think of a high trapeze artist, they're up on that tightrope. But for most of us, it's walking along a curb where the concrete is uneven. Just the other day, I was walking and it was kind of tight and narrow, and other people were walking in the opposite direction. And I slipped off the curb a little bit and was able to easily just kind of pull my ankle back in alignment. We've seen a lot of people, they just, twist their ankle or roll and fall down. And that's another beautiful element of Pilates, especially with some of the standing exercises that we do, is that we're working towards that more well-rounded approach. So it's not just in one element. And what I like about it too, is it lets me focus on a session, moving my body so that I don't have to do these like healthy hacks later on. As an example, someone recently said to me, I sprained my ankle and my physical therapist said I should start doing balance exercises while I'm standing brushing my teeth. And I've actually seen this a lot on Instagram as well. Habit stack and brush your teeth and balance, or at the sink when you're doing dishes. You know what? I really don't feel like that's going to be beneficial because so often it feels like we have to do more and more and more. Instead, if we focus on a very effective workout routine, then let's just be in the present moment for the rest of our life, whether that's brushing teeth or engaging with our friends and family.
So I know you also talk about the mindset and our mental well-being as we age, and how does Pilates help us in that respect?
Well, the beautiful thing is that workouts we know are not just good for physical. We now have research that they can help our mental health, whether it's reduce stress. There's actually evidence now that workouts reduce the risk factor for dementia. They help increase focus. So sometimes people choose to start working out, not so much for the physical benefits, but for the mind benefits. Because even though in our Western society, tends to be a big separation, mental health from body health, The system is interconnected. The mind is
Yes.
always sending signals to the body and vice versa, body sending signals to the brain. So they're in communication. And so, with a consistent workout routine, and consistent doesn't mean it has to be extremely long, nor every day, or the same every day. We can have a lot of variety in here. And I like to focus on seasonal variety, and I can talk more about that a little bit later if you'd like, where we can engage our body and our mind through working out.
And so, what is the seasonal portion of it?
The seasonal portion is I've realized throughout my life that at different seasons, and this can be different seasons of life, you may gravitate towards different types of workouts. And for so often with workouts, it's been hour-long workouts. They have to be really challenging in length, and they have to be going into the gym or going into a Pilates studio. And sometimes that works really well. And other times it really doesn't. So sometimes someone may be in a season of life where you either don't have enough time or you are really busy with a lot of different commitments going on. And it doesn't make sense to do an hour-long workout nor something incredibly vigorous. So it could be you're in a season where you want to turn down that dial of intensity in order to maintain a consistent workout program. Another aspect of seasonal is just the seasons themselves. So, as an example for myself, we're just coming off summer, and summer is
Mhm.
typically when I do less structured workouts and I don't hold myself to the fall type of workouts. That's because I still have children. They are older, they're in high school now, and so there is a lot of independence. And yet, inevitably, my fall is different when they're in school and I'm volunteering at their after school activities compared to in summer when they're home or on summer vacation. And I used to feel really guilty. Oh my gosh, we're going on vacation. I'm not going to be able to work out. This is really throwing me off track. And what I realized is when I go on vacation, oftentimes we are walking a lot, either sightseeing or for my family, we love to hike. And so the physical activity is just different than it is when I can more consistently come to the Pilates mat. And that can help take the pressure off of workouts and start to tap in to those hidden areas of which we're moving our body, but we're not going to the gym or unrolling your mat for an official workout.
Yeah. That's so true. That's so true because I think that we're our worst critics toward ourselves. And if we can't keep up with that specific routine that we want, it's so hard. And yet when we can use some grace there and just as you're saying, allow ourselves to flow with the season, do what needs to be, and we can be gracious to other people. So I think it's very important that that grace flows back toward us.
I so agree that I realize that when I speak with my children and how I motivate them, it used to be much different with how I motivated myself, exactly like we were saying, so harsh on myself. And I thought, would I want someone to actually talk to me? I would say, no, that's a toxic person. And so it starts with just that awareness. How are we talking to ourselves through
Mm.
these transitions? Is it through kindness and compassion and understanding? And I really feel like that is the key to listen to our wisdom. One of the beautiful elements of where we are right now is we are no longer teenagers or in our 20s or even 30s. We have a whole life experience which we can lean on, kind of focusing on, yeah, I know that this type of movement maybe isn't beneficial for me. And that just helps us emphasize maybe something else that is going to be more beneficial for where you are in your life or what's going to be helpful for your physical body as well.
Yeah, and I think the mindset part of it that's so important is we tend to get into this feeling of, oh my gosh, I've reached 40. Oh, I'm in midlife. Oh, I'm in menopause. I mean, you look at yourself so differently. And yet, to me, we bring such wisdom to the table that there's nothing else like it. I think that years gone by, the younger kids drew on the wisdom of the older generation, but now I don't think that's
Mhm.
quite so much. And it comes to the same thing with our exercise routine. Um, use some wisdom in the way that you do your exercise, the way that you push yourself too hard, because as we age, we have to realize that things change. So, what do you tell people with the role of mindset and well-being when they're adopting a fitness routine that promotes still a vibrant and healthy approach to aging?
I think when people are in that initial stage of I'm getting started again, is to focus on starting slow and short and giving it time. So many times when people start up their workout routine, they kind of start off where they left off, which was, maybe they were consistent for a year and they remember they were doing hour-long workouts 5 days a week, and it was maybe a little bit higher intensity. And our body and mind actually remember that. And we can push through that type of workout. But I've found for a lot of people who try that, then the next day they feel horrible.
Mm,
And if that happens, it's not necessarily a bad thing. And here's why: because your body is giving you information that workout was too much. And so what do? We turn down the intensity and we just say, okay, half it maybe. Or I'm going to do something that feels so incredibly easy. And you check in with yourself. How are you feeling during the workout? Good. How are you feeling the next day? Good. Well, that means you can stay with what you're doing for another few days, or you turn up the intensity. It's kind of like when you're cooking pasta, boiling pasta on the stovetop, that we're always adjusting that dial, fine tuning it. And if it gets too intense, we just don't turn it off because the pasta is not going to cook that way. We need to give it time to make those adjustments. And most likely, so as an example, we just got a brand new stove. And so I'm learning how to almost recook on my brand new stove because the texture is a little bit different than my old one. And the
mm,
same thing with workouts, that you may be in a different stage where you were even a few months ago. And so leaning into it with curiosity of, how is my body feeling? How is this affecting me? Do I need to turn up the intensity a little bit, turn it down? That for people I work with, they've noticed that they've been able to get back in to the more challenging workouts in a way that feels positive and beneficial. Someone just sent me an email that they did another bone density scan and they actually improved their bone density score
mm,
through a consistent Pilates program, not pushing too hard, but not ignoring it completely. And so this is all what we know workouts can do when you stick with it. And the only way to stick with it is to allow for some more variety than we've typically been told. Hour long, really intense, just push through and, go beyond maybe what is going to be most beneficial for you.
mm. That's such good news to hear, because I think my overarching goal when it comes to exercise is always my health, to be healthy, and yet we don't often think about our bones and our, well, we do think about our muscles, but not so much our bones. But in the process of aging, I think it's even more important to be aware of the fact that we want to increase our bone density, or strengthen our muscles and our bones at the same time.
And they really do go hand in hand, which is one reason why that strengthening workouts are part of a well-rounded
Mm,
routine. So when we do those strengthening exercises, it's going to help the bone development as well. And what's so amazing is it doesn't have to be something that used to work really well for us in our 20s, or what's trending like in high intensity interval training workout. It can be slower, it can be more mindful with resistance that's just right, to be challenging but not too much.
yeah. And what practical tips do you have for women who are looking to start or adapt their fitness journey in midlife, and especially those new to Pilates or returning to exercise after a break?
I encourage to, when you get started, don't worry necessarily about a well-rounded workout routine or the length of time. Focus on what you can do consistently, and you know you will be able to do that for a week. So when you look at your 7 days, is that an hour long? For a lot of people who work with me, it's like, I cannot do an hour every single day. So they shorten that time. And it could even be, I'm going to consistently show up for myself 10 minutes. And with those 10 minutes every day, it can be a blend between more strengthening work, more mobility work, and even stretching. So even though I'm saying 7 days, it doesn't mean that we're doing something really vigorous. It could be a gentle wind down routine for our evening kind of hygiene practice. I know that sometimes sleep gets disturbed around this time period, and we can look to other avenues kind of outside of ourselves for how to help with our sleep, or just think about our routine in the evening. Is it long enough to where we do have time to unwind from the day to prepare for a better night's sleep? So that evening practice incorporated can be really helpful as well. Then once you are consistent, then we can look at, okay, maybe we're going to turn up that intensity in some way and start with 2 days a week, ensuring that there's strengthening workouts. And even though Pilates many times is typecast as an effective core workout, which it is, it also has really always been about a total body workout, whether we're using body weight exercises with resistance bands or weight, that we do want to have that more strengthening element included. But my number one suggestion is start with consistency and focusing on what you enjoy. Then you can use that as a launch pad to getting a little bit more nuanced.
And so where can people get a hold of you? What's the best place for them to find you?
The best place is on my website at trifectapilates.com, where you can find more information about how to move with me virtually, whether it's within the membership and app or on YouTube.
Awesome. Yeah, I noticed that you got a YouTube channel, so I'm assuming you do some classes on YouTube for people. Awesome.
I do. For most people who are part of the membership and app, that's really where they got to know me, and they realized, I keep coming back to moving with Beth, and now I just want to go a little bit deeper, have more options, download workouts, all the things that the app can offer that we just can't offer on YouTube.
So I believe that you have given our listeners an opportunity to try a class on your Trifecta Pilates YouTube channel.
Yes.
How is the best way to get to that?
There's two options. If you just like to kind of go test things out and have a sampler, go directly to YouTube, check it out. There are a lot of classes on there. So I might recommend beginning with the Evolution program, which is 5 workouts for the entire week so that you have rest and recovery in there as well. And you can sign up for that at trifectapilates.com/move.
And I will have that in the show notes, of course, and all of the links to your social media. And I also want to remind you, ladies, that since we've talked about midlife today, I'll be dropping in the show notes my free ebook for 5 essential steps for flourishing in menopause, which you may find really helpful. So I thank you so much, Beth, for connecting with us today and for giving us all of your insight and wisdom for this very important part of our midlife, in keeping up with our exercise routine and realizing how that affects our body.
And thank you so much. I loved having the conversation and supporting people right where they are.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day. You have been listening to the Living Life Naturally podcast, where we're on a mission to inform, inspire, and encourage women to live their best life confidently, joyfully, and freely from what's been holding them back. For show notes and free resources, visit holistic-healthandwellness.com. And I'd be delighted if you'd follow us on socials to connect further. If you enjoyed this show, why not share it with your friends? If you found good value, chances are they will too. And of course, a 5-star review on iTunes is always greatly appreciated, as much as I appreciate you listening. So until next time, live life naturally and joyfully.